Had Tuesday a great day up at Mayflower at our enforcement training facility, and got to welcome Attorney General Tim Griffin, who generously donated out of his fund of that he has discretionary ability to give to enforcement groups in our state, and generous to give us $250,000 that we're going to be able to use at that Mayflower facility to help do some upgrades there. We're so grateful to the Attorney General for that, and then great committee meetings yesterday, and it started off with a fishing trip, and had fun out there, and all the fun last night with the fish fry, which I'm still full from. When you've got walleye fillets and crappie fillets just piled over the top, and you can't stop. You just can't stop. And I didn't stop. But anyway, it was a great day, and here we are wrapping up this week. It's a special week. We got to get this week started off with our new director. Director, welcome.
Thank you.
It's been a fun week. Great way, I think, for you to get started at all.
Every week's like this, right?
Every week's like this, exactly. We all get to come to DeGray and eat fish every week. No, it's been a fun week, certainly action-packed, but welcome again. Officially, we're called to order. We have numerous guests with us today. If you're with the Corps of Engineers, raise your hand. In fact, looks like Dustin Thompson, Derek Leach, Kathy Ritter's here, Ronnie's right hand, and CFO of the organization. Yeah. Oh, thank you for bringing him along. And Shannon Heron and Ryan Helms with the Corps here. Thank y'all for all y'all do with our lakes and our rivers throughout this great state and in our district. We appreciate your service in all the things that we enjoy on the water. And our special guest, George Dunklin, hit the room back there, coming in here, former commissioner, and we appreciate you joining with us today as well. Yes, and many spouses are with us today. I'm about to get in trouble. My much better half back there, Beth Neely's with us. I believe we have Sherry Jones is back there, Gina Tappin's back there, and Miss Linda Shonrock is Doug's better half is with us back there as well. And so thank you, Wise, for joining us today. It's always a treat. Any other guests that I've missed in the house? Well, with that, we're going to, if you care to join us, we're going to have our prayer and pledge of allegiance that we get started off with every year. This is Chaplain Glenn Austin. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come before your throne of grace, and we're thankful, Lord, for this great state you've blessed us with and all the creation that you've done here. Thank you for these commissioners, Lord, and we pray for wisdom and grace for each and every one of them and their families. We thank you, Lord, for using them as great stewards of this state. We pray, Lord, that you go through each and every part of this meeting today, and may it be a blessing to you. And thank you, Lord, for getting us here safe. Give us traveling grace back to our homes and areas of work. And I pray, Lord, that you'll just continue to show us the path you'd have us to follow. Again, we're so thankful that we live in a great state of Arkansas. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Chaplain Austin. Commissioners, first we need to start off with an approval of our today's agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented?
I'll move to approve.
If not, we have a motion from Commissioner Doremus to approve. I need a second. Second from Commissioner Tappan. All in favor say aye. 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 This motion is approved. Next, we need an approval of our April 17th and 21st, 2025 commission meeting notes. Are there any additions or deletions to these notes? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Got a motion from Commissioner Caldwell, second from Commissioner Finley. All in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? This motion is approved as well. Well, next we will move into staff presentations, and we have Free Fishing Weekend Proclamation. Ben Batten, you have the floor. This is a fun announcement.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Director, guests, friends, everybody joining us online. It is my absolute pleasure annually to bring this item to us. I think as we saw on Wednesday with the fishing tournament and all the excitement that came around that, and just as I think back, my best memories for sure with my father and many other friends and family are made on the water and fishing. And we all know in Arkansas we're really fortunate to have, we're looking at one out the window here, such great resources. So in order to celebrate that, from what I understand, it's been going on a little over 3 decades. We do a free fishing weekend where we allow folks to fish from noon on Friday until midnight on Sunday without a license or a trout permit. Still have to follow all the rules and regs, but don't need those licenses. And it's a great way to get folks out. We know we have people that plan family reunions and things around coming to Arkansas to enjoy this weekend. So we do this in cooperation with the governor's office. And Josh Stewart, our liaison with the governor's office, sends his regrets. He was not able to make it this morning, so I'm going to pinch hit for him and go ahead and just read this proclamation. So, to all to whom these presents come, greetings. Whereas sport fishing and boating provides healthful recreation for more than 60 million anglers, of American anglers of all ages, and whereas fishing and boating promotes respect for our nation's waters, wilderness, and wildlife, whereas fishing and boating are established recreational traditions rooted deeply in the history of our country and the hearts of our citizenry, nearly 1 million anglers contributed $2.6 billion to the Arkansas economy in 2022. And whereas sport fishing and boating, through the payment of millions of dollars annually for license, taxes, and fees, have provided the funding for federal and state programs that contribute significantly to the preservation and protection of our natural environment. And whereas June 1st through June 8th, 2025 has been set as National Fishing and Boating Week, now therefore I, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Governor of the state of Arkansas, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the laws of the state of Arkansas, do hereby proclaim noon on June 6th until midnight June 8th, 2025 as Free Fishing Weekend in Arkansas. In testimony whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the great seal of the state of Arkansas to be fixed this 19th day of May in the year of our Lord 2025. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, every year it's great to have this proclamation from the governor extending a free weekend to all Arkansans, anyone here to go enjoy our streams, rivers, and lakes and get out there and go fishing. All right, well, next we're going to have a presentation on DeGray Lake vegetation. Sean Lusk.
Well, I wanted to start off by thanking you for having me give this presentation. When I became a fisheries biologist, I never thought that I would spend a lot of my time setting up a greenhouse and growing aquatic plants and actually getting excited about watching aquatic plants grow. So this is a project that I've been extremely passionate about, and I just wanted to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to get up here and actually talk about this. So the setting for my presentation is none other than the beautiful DeGray Lake. And despite the fact that DeGray is home to an extremely wide range of sport fish, the overwhelming majority of sport fish management on DeGray is directed towards bass, and more specifically the production of trophy largemouth bass. Now, fortunately, there's no secret sauce or trade secret that you need to produce trophy largemouth. You really only need 4 things to come together. And those 4 things are having the right forage, both in terms of quality and quantity, having the genetic potential. Not every fish in the system has the potential of reaching a trophy size, so we need to do things to try to increase the number of individuals in the population that do have that trophy potential. Having longevity, generally it takes about 10 years for a bass in Arkansas to reach a trophy size, which we would consider 10 pounds. So if a fish gets filleted at age 3, it's not going to live to age 10, so we need to make sure that we're maximizing the fish that are making it to age 10. And last but not least, you have to have the right habitat. And for trophy bass production, generally the right habitat is complex cover. And the best complex cover around is aquatic vegetation, mainly native aquatic vegetation. So as you can probably imagine, the rest of my presentation is going to be focused on our habitat. And you can think of these 4 elements like legs of a stool. We're all sitting in a chair right now. If you were to kick out one of those legs of your chair, it's going to get a little wobbly, right? Eventually it's going to fall over, it's going to collapse. Well, it's the exact same thing with a bass fishery. If you remove any one of these legs of the stool, your fishery is going to fall apart. You know, you may still have fish there, but when you're trying to produce a bunch of trophies, you have to have a lot come together, okay? So we really need all these legs of the stool hitting on all cylinders. Now, DeGray was impounded in the 1970s. It's one of our newer Corps of Engineer reservoirs. And by the mid to late 70s, it became heavily vegetated with a wide variety of aquatic plants. Now, one of the most common plants by the kind of mid 2000s was this plant right here. This is hydrilla. It is non-native. It does provide phenomenal fishery cover, but it's got the nickname the super plant. And the reason why it's called the super plant is because once it becomes established in a body of water, especially on the scale of something like DeGray, eradication's kind of no longer an option, right? It's so hard to get rid of unless you're willing to do some really drastic things. You're more of just managing it. Now, between 2007 and 2011, something crazy happened, and all of that super plant seemingly vanished. And like we talked about at the beginning of the presentation, to produce good trophy fisheries, you have to have complex cover. Well, the exact opposite of complex cover is an absolute moonscape, which is what DeGray was in 2011. Now, essentially what happened was when we lost all that vegetation out there, we basically had, our 4 elements. This leg of the stool was completely kicked out, and the fishery responded exactly the way we would expect it to. So in 2011, our electrofishing catch rate was 172 fish per hour. And for those of you that aren't familiar with electrofishing, basically our biologists have these boats, and they put a small electrical charge in the water. And what that electrical charge does is it stuns these fish for a fraction of a second. It's a very short period of time. Allows our biologists to net those fish up. We can get a weight, we can get a length, and of course we count the number of fish that we're collecting. With just those 3 pieces of information, we can draw a lot of inferences about the overall health of a population. And generally, one of those indexes that we get is a relative index of abundance. So the theory is, or the idea, or actual practice is, as the population in the lake increases, our electrofishing rate also increases. As that population decreases, our catch rate goes down. Well, vegetation in DeGray really took a hit in 2011, and it never really rebounded, okay? And so what we saw was the population absolutely tanked, which we knew this was coming. We knew this was going to happen. We just didn't know how bad it was going to be. And so by 2019, the vegetation had not responded yet, and our catch rate was less than a third of what it was in 2011. Now, as you can probably imagine, people we got a lot of passionate anglers, which is fantastic, and we started to get a lot of feedback from our angling community on the status of DeGray. And in fact, it got the nickname the Dead Sea. And to be honest with you, rightfully so. I mean, when you have a third, relatively a third of what you had before, and it's not like you have a low density, high growth type situation, you have terrible habitats. You have low density, and you're not producing a lot of fish out here, which is the absolute worst of all case scenarios. So one of the biggest questions, and to be honest with you guys, I could spend 3 hours on this slide right here, and I could put everyone in this room asleep, but I'm gonna spare you. I'm feeling good today. But one of the biggest questions was, what happened to the vegetation in the first place? How do you go from having, all of this, vegetation, this super plant, to all of a sudden you have absolutely nothing? And to this day, we still cannot point to one thing and say, this is exactly what it was, but we are very confident that what wiped out that vegetation had to do with an interaction between major changes in lake level elevation and herbivory. So once we identified, kind of what the problem was, the next step was to try to figure out what we can do to get that vegetation to come back. Because when you have a lake that's heavily vegetated, just like, if you have your yard, if you have your yard's got grass in it for 40 years and that grass disappears, you still have a seed bank. Well, the exact same thing applies to aquatic systems. We could never figure out why that seed bank never rebounded. It was very clear that we needed to do something to try to kickstart this aquatic vegetation out in the lake itself. And so what we did was we contacted our Corps of Engineers friends. They've got a part of their, what the Corps does, they have an engineering research and development center out of Lewisville, Texas. And what this group does is they specialize in rehabbing these aquatic systems, trying to get plants to come back. And so we reached out to them. They sent up a group, and we spent a couple days driving around the lake. Dustin was there. Dustin remembers this. Spent a couple days driving around the lake, taking a couple samples. And they went back to Texas, and they sent us a report. And they sent us this report right here. And basically, this report turned into our work plan for the next couple years. We were very dedicated to trying to bring back our habitat out here. So this became our work plan. Now, when you get to the scale of DeGray, and there's two fisheries biologists that manage DeGray, there's no way you can plant enough plants around the lake to have a significant biological impact. It's just not in the realm of possibility. But fortunately, you don't have to plant the entire lake. All you have to do is develop founder colonies. And what this theory of developing founder colonies has been tried and proven a number of times throughout the Southeast, primarily in Texas. Now, the difference between where these founder colonies have been tried and proven and DeGray is major changes in lake level elevation, which again, what we talked about, one of the biggest threats, in my opinion, the single biggest threat to vegetation is these major changes in lake level elevation. High, spring inflows, and then when we start to have droughts later in the year. And so in this report, they had this theoretical idea, something that had never been tried before, and they referred to it as the tetrahedron. And so basically what this tetrahedron is it's a structure that's a tetrahedron upside down. It's completely buoyant, and it's wrapped in fencing. And so what you do is instead of planting your founder colony in the ground where you may have the lake drops out, or you have this increase, or a grass carp rolls through and eats all your vegetation, you put your founder colony in this thing. And what it does is it keeps all that plant material right at the surface, so it's getting plenty of sunlight penetration. And because it's wrapped in fencing, it's also protecting it from herbivores. You're hitting on all cylinders at this point. We couldn't figure out how to make a tetrahedron out of PVC pipe and make it fully enclosed, like fully airtight. So we changed the design and we changed the name. And born was the Arkansas Cube. Now, the Arkansas Cube, it's a 3 foot by 3 foot by 1.5 foot structure. It's completely airtight. It's got the fencing around it. And so basically what we do is we take a very particular plant. It's called coontail. It's a native plant, and it's got a few incredible properties. The best property of it is it can live its life completely free floating. It's one of the few aquatic plants that doesn't actually have to be in the sediment. It can just live its whole life free floating. It's insane. On top of that, Coontail was prevalent in the lake before we had this downturn in aquatic vegetation in the first place. So we knew right off the bat, hey, this plant will work and it'll work in our cubes. So it's like, hey, there's no point in not trying this. We need to do something here. So once we had a design, we set up some greenhouses. I became a small coontail farmer for a little while there. Started growing coontail. We had our cubes, and then we reached out to a local bass fishing group and said, hey, we need your help here. You guys have fished this lake forever. Where have you consistently seen vegetation growing? Because we want to put these cubes in those areas that we know have the highest potential of helping us successfully establish this aquatic vegetation. So we worked with this group and we identified 16 locations around DeGray Lake. And so at each one of these locations, we deployed one of our cubes, we put a bunch of coontail in there, and then we spent a ton of time throughout the summer just going and just refilling all of these enclosures with coontail. Now, fortunately, the coontail really took at a pretty rapid rate. So just within a couple years, we were already identifying big mats of coontail that were growing right next to our enclosures. Now, we spent a significant amount of time in our greenhouses, growing coontail, putting under cube, and we didn't have the ability to set up a monitoring protocol. But this is where the value of partnerships come in. While we were unable to do any monitoring at all, the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff volunteered to come in and take over the monitoring for us. And what that monitoring looked like is they would go into each one of these coves, and this cove right here, we all drove past it coming to the lodge today. It's right off the causeway, on the west side of the causeway. And they would go into each one of these coves, and they would conduct a series of transects. And with these transects, they were recording down imaging on their fish finders, which this top picture is down imaging. They would record hours of their down imaging. They would go back to the office, and then they would categorize all the vegetation that they identified into 3 categories. They then sent that information to the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission's GIS division, and the GIS division was able to do some really cool things with these data. So right now, there are certain algorithms that you can use to infer what's going on in between transects. It's basically how you create heat maps like crime maps. And so what they're able to do is generate figures like this, heat maps of where all of our vegetation was popping up. And the value of this is we can look in a single cove and see where vegetation is growing well and where it's not growing well. And then we can start looking at characteristics of where's the stuff doing the best. As an example, on the left side of your screen here, where you see that dark red spot, that's a place where we had really dense coontail growing. So we're able to go into places like that and try to figure out why our vegetation is growing so well there. Is it a substrate type? Is it a slope angle? Is it just because it's in a protective cove? Then we can start applying that to other areas around the lake, start moving our Arkansas cubes around, and almost more importantly, starting to apply this to other lakes that are dealing with similar situations to DeGray. So the University of Arkansas did their monitoring for several years, and in 2022, they generated a report for us. And by 2022, over half of our locations where we had cubes already had dense mats of coontail growing in the general vicinity. And fortunately, at the end of last growing season, almost all of our locations where we had Arkansas cubes had vegetation growing. And it's getting to the point now where our Arkansas cubes are kind of a drop in the bucket compared to what Mother Nature is doing naturally out there right now. So I spent a lot of time talking about vegetation, because again, I'm passionate about vegetation now. If I had a t-shirt that said coontail, I would have worn it. But the big question now is, well, how's the fishery responded? Okay, vegetation's rebounding. Are we seeing that the population of bass is also rebounding? And so just to recap, in 2011, that's when we saw this huge downturn in our habitat, and the population absolutely tanked through 2019. In 2019 is when we started to experiment with our Arkansas cubes. We got them out in the lake, and we continued to monitor during 2021 and 2023. And I'm really happy to report that the population responded really, really well to the reemergence of aquatic vegetation. In 2023, we didn't get back to where we were in 2011, so we still have quite a bit of work that we need to do, but the population is trending the right way. This is one of, anymore we don't really have conservation success stories. It seems like there's more negative conservation stuff than there is positive, and this is one of those cool examples where we've done something and the population has responded really well. We were going to sample in 2025, but due to high water, we weren't able to get out there, so it would have been really interesting to see what the catch rate would have been if we were able to get out there. Just considering that, talking to anglers, talking to, just being out there myself and seeing vegetation, I'd rather suspect that this trend would continue. I don't know if it's back to where it was in 2011, but I'd like to believe that it's starting to get at least close up there. The encouraging thing is, at the very beginning of my presentation, I talked about the 4 legs of the stool. And if you remove one of those legs, then your fishery kind of falls apart. Well, for the past 10, 15 years, we really haven't had good bass habitat out there. Despite that, DeGray still has had a reputation for the late winter, early spring for producing trophy largemouth bass. So even though habitat was atrocious, it was still kicking out good fish. So it's very encouraging for us, now that habitat's hitting on all cylinders, that we will continue to see not only trophy bass, but potentially even more trophy bass than we were seeing before. So with that, I would like to thank all of our partners. We've had a tremendous amount of help on this project, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Followed up by a question. First off, great presentation, Sean.
Appreciate it, thank you.
And I remember when I joined the commission in 2019, I was welcomed by a group of very angry bass fishermen from Lake DeGray talking about the grass kill.
Mm-hmm.
And
That
so
same group got with me when I got on the committee.
exactly, they were.
I'm noticing
really,
a trend here.
They were the welcoming committee. In fact, that's how I met James Arnold, who
Mm-hmm.
we will be speaking about later and dedicating that dog to. Now, I want to say that I really want to give you guys some kudos on how you got your stakeholders involved on, hey, let's all work together and put this grass habitat out. Well done. I know that was very well received by everybody. But another statement I heard from everybody was, we need to stock, we need to do more of that. After you did the grass habitat, did you go in and do supplemental stocking? How much did you do? Did you see a big difference?
Yeah, so we do, and this is where it gets a little kind of confusing, but we do stock Florida bass, and we don't stock to increase the number of fish that are out there. Because again, what we're stocking is a drop in the bucket. What we're doing with our Florida bass stockings is we're trying to influence that genetic composition. So one of our legs of the stool is having that trophy potential, and given the right conditions, Florida bass have been shown to have a greater trophy potential than what we naturally have here. So we're not trying to increase the number of fish in the lake, because we literally don't have the capacity to do that. But we do have the capacity to influence the genetic potential and ultimately the trophy potential.
So Sean, just like with wildlife, we need to put our focus on habitat,
Absolutely.
and then everything else comes together.
100%.
Thank you.
Sean, again, great presentation. Some other lakes throughout Arkansas need some work too. Are there limitations? Like I know Greer's, y'all are back up there doing some work. I've heard lake vegetation, but I mean just any other big lakes. Can you take I like that Arkansas Cube or whatever you got this thing nicknamed. Can you take this thing and hit the road with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so last year, we actually took this traveling road show up to Greer's Ferry and Beaver Lake. So over the last year, I've had those in there. And we were working with the Corps of the Engineering Research and Development Center to take over the monitoring protocol. And at the end of last year, they actually did identify a patch of coontail that was growing next to one of the cubes up there. So we're pretty optimistic that this will work, and we actually had a major manufacturer of artificial fish structures, Mossback, reach out to us, and they wanted to start mass producing those Arkansas cubes, because that is a certain limitation for us. And so we're cautiously optimistic that we may be able to develop a partnership with them and really expand this program. Another one of our limitations is actually growing vegetation, and one of our biologists in the northwestern part of the state is doing a phenomenal job working with high schools and nation for us. And so they would grow it all year long, and then we could go work with them to put these cubes out in the lake, put our vegetation out there, and then it's just
Arkansas hunters feeding the hungry. Was our guide the other day for Commissioner Finley and another. And thanks for all your work.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting in the summertime. I mean, they become a pattern for a little while because the amount of juvenile fish that live inside these things, and it seems like there's always a school of something underneath them. So you basically have these little floating islands out there, and with that, you're inevitably going to have some larger predatory fish cruising around. So it's kind of cool just to see a little ecosystem out there doing its thing.
Anne Marie, you and I did not get that tip.
We didn't fish by that.
You're not supposed to tell everyone
Yeah,
that.
Well, Sean, great presentation, but I have one question. How are we gonna stop this from happening again?
Yeah, and unfortunately, when you have larger lakes like DeGray, there's a lot of things that are really out of our control. The primary purpose of DeGray is flood control and hydroelectric power generation. And so when we have these periods where we're not getting a lot of inflows, we still have to be producing power. And unfortunately, those lakes start coming down. And like we had, not long ago, we had, a once in a generational rain, and the lake came up. And, if we start having consecutive rains like that and they can't get water out of there fast enough, there's really nothing we can do. Fortunately, since 2019, we have been very fortunate that growing conditions have been excellent. And I mentioned those major changes in lake level elevation. I'm talking major changes. Like we said, between 2007 and 11, there were 2 record lows, and they were in those colder months. And the reason why that's such a problem is because DeGray is very shaly. When that lake drops out and you leave that material up on the bank and then it freezes, it smokes it. And a prime example of that is if you go to Lake Hamilton and Catherine, they strategically draw those lakes down 3 to 5 foot a year, and there's always a ring around the shoreline where there's not vegetation growing. The value of that is you come out a little bit deeper and there is plants growing, so it creates, right now Lake Hamilton is absolutely on fire, and a lot of that has to do with that vegetation growth. But when we get to these larger reservoirs, unfortunately, there's just a lot that's out of our control.
Does it help that it's floating?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
I have one question. Have we patented that or trademarked this or anything?
No.
As far as monetizing it?
No, I haven't, no.
Okay.
I think fisheries, they
Might wanna
got,
look into that. Before we give this away, I'm not sure.
It wasn't,
I'm not
but it will
sure
be
it
now.
shouldn't be the Arkansas Lust winner. Great presentation, by the way.
Appreciate it, thank you.
yep. All right, well, we've been to the water, and now we're going to go to the land. David Luker's going to introduce Griffin Parks for us.
Yeah, I'd like to.
All right, well, we've been to the water, and now we're going to go to the land. David Luker's going to introduce Griffin Parks for us.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Griffin Park. He's been around here for a long time. He's been on this lake. I know a lot. I don't know, JJ, I think he didn't want to take you to all his secret spots. That's why y'all didn't catch anything, I think. So, but no, Griffin's been with the agency for 35 years. Started as a habitat biologist, moved up to assistant regional supervisor, and been the regional supervisor about 17 years. And I'm excited to hear from all the great work and great partnership that he's got with the Corps and what we'll be doing here at the Gray. So.
Good morning, everyone. As Commissioner Neely said, we're going from the water to the woods. Last couple of days, we've got to experience the beautiful State Park Lodge here overlooking the lake, the Corps facilities that we've got to experience last night. Even right at dark, sunset, a lot of people were down taking pictures at the water, boat out there silhouetted, and just a beautiful place out here. The Gray Lake WMA was established with our partnership with the Corps of Engineers in 2006. It encompasses about 14,000 acres around the lake, and you can see it's all the way around the lake. The boundaries provides hunters access by boat. A lot of people do access the area by boat. Roads, intersecting, going into the campground stuff. Provides a lot of opportunity here in this area. The main thing about that we want to talk about is our partnership that we have with the Corps of Engineers. Commissioner Neely introduced a lot of the guys this morning with the Corps. Dustin Thomason, he's a project wildlife biologist. Shannon Herring, he's a project forester. We work with them a lot, drawing up these plans. We've got Dustin Shannon, Derek Lynch, and Ryan Helms is here also with the Corps. This partnership developed, we kind of got to working with them after 2006 and kind of developed over the years where we've become more active partners with them in creating habitat, open pine landscape, grass, forb, understory, the habitat that's really that, turkeys and quail thrive off of. Funding sources for this, for all of our contract work that we do up here, of course, the Corps has their budgets and stuff, and they fund part of this, and we also apply. They bring us projects, and we try to help fund them through our budget process. We take the Ross Foundation grant monies and apply it for 25% match, and then wildlife restoration money applies 75% for the match. So we get a lot of good work done up here for a very low dollar value. And of course, creating a quality habitat, we use a lot of silviculture treatments in this, in doing this. Our timber stands that we have up here, Shannon and Dustin will identify these stands that need work to lower the basal areas in. We do timber stand sales, they do sales. We help with marking. We do mulching, broadcast herbicide applications, cut stump applications, and of course, for all of us pyromaniacs, we do prescribed burning. Everybody enjoys that. And this is just an example of some contracts that we've done over the last few years with the Corps of our partners. This was 2 years ago, we did a timber marking contract, and the different colors, shades of colors, these areas were contracted out to be marked down to different basal areas, just in different age stand classes of pines. And we were able to help fund that, and that advanced this work into creating quality habitat. This slide shows some mulching jobs that we've done, some mulching contracts that we've gone through, daylighting roads and mulching understories to get to the point to where you have the understory, the fire is not responding, the fire is not killing the understory that we want, so we have to bring a mulcher in to take that understory, mid-story back down to where a fire can control it. And here's a mulcher. We got a picture of the mulcher in there doing the work, and then afterwards, and once we get the understory and the mid-story down, then we can go back in, prescribe fire, and maintain this. For the, when we, every couple of years rotation of fire. When we, herbicide skidders, this is a very cost-effective way to get the mid-story, to take care of the mid-story. When the fire can't, you lose that control of the woody big for the fire control. This is a good way to go in your pure pine stands. We don't do this in hardwood stands, but go in the pine stands, and we'll use these skidder sprayers to take the mid-story out. Cut stump. The cut stump is becoming a real favorable way that we can go in and take these individual species out when it's not, real thick, but we can go in and select individual trees that we want to take out, individual stems we can take out. And basically what we do as a contractor, they go in and they take the chainsaw weed eaters and they cut the stem off and then apply herbicide to the stump to kill that stump. And it leaves a great open understory that, sunlight hitting the ground, and we get a real response of grass and forbs coming in after that. This is the great aerial photograph that Dustin sent me from a couple of years ago after a timber standing job. They were up here prescribed burning, and I thought that was a good aerial photograph from a drone. And this is what we're looking for in the end result. Open pine understory with lots of grass and forbs. And you can see some of the recent fires, some of the brown stems there where the fires killed some of the stems, and got a great response from the forbs in there. And the main thing is focusing on a great partnership we have with the Corps of Engineers on this WMA up here. Any questions?
Griffin, you just got me inspired. I'm going to be on my mulcher this weekend. I got to get back out there and do some good stuff.
Yep.
I love habitat work. And quick question is for y'all. Of course, we love partnerships, and the Corps is a great partner. There's not just here, but many lakes. The Corps has lands around that we get to work with. But how many acres are in the gray area woodlands that you get to work with that are open to the public?
Right at 14,000 acres
14,000.
around the Gray Lake.
That's a tremendous asset that often goes unnoticed by the public, that it's available. I had a good friend, his grandson was going to Henderson, and here, been a few years back, but while he was in school, he was killing turkeys up here, and he was telling his grandpa, I don't need to come back and hunt at the camp. I'm getting birds up here. I like this better.
Right. Right.
So, you know, it really is a kind of a hidden secret gem of what we have available up here with the Corps and the property. And I know just personally, when we're up here with the kids in the summer, doing water sports and things, often in the evenings you'll see deer and turkey coming down to water here. There's a lot of wildlife here around this
There
lake.
is.
But, great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Before the director gives his report, I've asked Mary Beth Hatch, Chief of Education, to come up and share just a little tidbit with us on some things that she's got on her radar.
I was excited to not have to present this month, actually, but a little bit off agenda really quickly here. I wanted to share a brief update, and Chairman Neely asked me to do that, so thank you for having me this morning here for just a few minutes. About a year ago today, actually, 1 year ago today, we announced and launched the School of Conservation Leadership in the Education Division around the state. Today, that final site visit is actually being conducted at Sonora Elementary in Springdale. We had 20 schools go through that process. About midway through, we did a presentation to the commission where we had Secretary Oliva, Dr. Hardin from the Department of Education come and hear about the things that we were doing here at Game and Fish when it came to education, and that sparked some interest around the state. So we've actually received interest from multiple state agencies wanting to create an effort to not only just get outdoor recreation, education, and conservation in all schools, but actually make it a requirement. And so we are actually working with these other state agencies as the lead agency to actually make this happen. And for us, it's more important to not just say we're in every school, but we're making an impact and we're very intentional. So we are currently developing our own curriculum as well as professional development to teach teachers and work with educators in schools to integrate this into their core content areas. So it isn't something extra, it's not something new, it's not just something that they're going to have to add on to their day where they already don't have time to do that. We're going to work with them to integrate it into science, social studies, language arts, math, and all of those other core content areas, plus physical education and health. So in doing so, we hope to bring a lot of awareness to conservation and outdoor recreation here in the state of Arkansas. And what we've seen in our many site visits across the state, JJ's attended many of those, Spencer's attended several of those. We've had staff across the state evaluating these schools that are going through the School of Conservation Leadership process. We're not just seeing high schools growing aquatic vegetation in their greenhouses, we have middle schools and elementaries growing that aquatic vegetation in partnership with John Stein, and Sean's gotten a lot of credit for launching that, but why not? Those greenhouses are sitting empty in most of those schools. Why not utilize those for good? And those students are learning about that, and they're getting those experiences, and it's becoming those projects. We're seeing schools in their emergency management classes doing prescribed burns. We actually got to see one at Izard County Consolidated live. The ag teacher was doing that, and I sent a picture that day to Garrick and Luke to share. We're seeing schools using raised beds, but we're talking about putting those native plants right into the ground and creating those habitats on their campus for pollinators. Our staff across the agency have conducted what we required as guest lectures. They're working with other state agency partners. We just really want to make sure that we're doing this right, and as I've worked with, and our team has worked with every division in our agency to make sure that we are doing this consistently, and as I've said, most importantly, accurately, and we're sharing that message, I think we're developing something very impactful here. So we're looking forward to making this happen. I hope a year from now, I'll be able to stand up here and talk about how many thousands of students this has impacted and where we're starting to go with this.
Mary Beth, really quick, can you touch on the event in November,
Sure.
all made possible by the grant by former Commissioner Martin and his wife Margie?
Yeah, a few months ago, that same meeting when the Department of Ed was here, we also talked about announcing what we called at the time, before a very recent event, the Generation Conservation Conclave. We have changed that name to Generation Conservation Summit. And so we will be hosting that November 5th and 6th at the Hot Springs Convention Center. You heard me say that day that this is meant to be that state conference similar to an FBLA or an FCCLA or an FFA, but sheerly focused on conservation and outdoor recreation. So we've announced that. That's live on our website. We are gaining interest from all over the state. Schools are already sending in their interest forms, and they're ready to register for that. So we'll be hosting that, and it's packed with competitions, once again, developed by our divisions in our agency as well as other partners.
Mary Beth, we couldn't be more proud of you and the leadership and Spencer and all of our education division of where we're going, and to get to look into the future. I mean, we're really at a critical point. I know Commissioner Dunklin's back there in the back, and he can appreciate this, and knowing the history of education and the growth that we've had throughout the agency. I know when I got on the commission 7 years ago that we were trying to get in schools in different ways and trying different avenues and reaching out to kids, and we are here. We are here now, and so this is just the beginning launch point of going forward, of getting to work throughout the state, and I think we'll be a model throughout the nation of how to reach out to future kids, to lead them into conservation, to bring them. There'll be future staff here a generation from now that will be the result of what you're doing right now. So we can't thank you and our education division enough, and working, I know, with other partners in education. We appreciate you. All right, now Director Sean Rock, we'll call you up for the director's report.
Before I start, I do have a question for Sean. Is coontail considered salad? Because I caught a bunch of it yesterday. And I'm just trying to make sure my diet is on par for, luckily, and if it was, we would have been eating coontail last night instead of fish. But thank you for those reports. Well, good morning. Today's update is a result basically of 3 days on the job, and you've all heard me talk about drinking AGFC information through the proverbial fire hose, and that's true. But thanks to excellent leadership and staff assistance, this report is a lot easier. And they've prepared me well, and I hope I do them justice for their great work they've done. So it's an honor to stand before you today in my new capacity as chairman, or as director, I apologize. And it's an opportunity that as a pure conservationist, I consider it really the opportunity of a lifetime. Chairman Neely, Vice Chairman Duranis, and commissioners, thank you for a very thoughtful, thorough, and invigorating process. Having been in your shoes in the past, and when you conduct an executive search, the process of that is very exhausting, and it goes far beyond and requires a commitment. It goes far beyond your normal responsibilities in your current capacity. So thank you for having faith in me. I appreciate that. You know, the natural state and Arkansas Game and Fish have a storied and rich history. And this history is embedded in what is a strong outdoor heritage. This heritage is one to be envied, no doubt. It's one that each of us in this room today really have a phenomenal opportunity to lead in order to pass this heritage to future generations. I'd like to thank former Director Booth and staff for their excellent work on the Natural State Tomorrow strategic plan. This is an excellent roadmap that's going to help guide AGFC in priorities for execution for the greater good of Arkansans and visitors alike. I'd also like to thank Austin for his passion and his vision. I'd also like to thank Interim Director Racy for his passion and leadership. Chris grabbed the tiller at a critical time and helped lead the organization over the last few months. Thank you, Chris. And as one of my first official actions, I'm honored to let you know that I've asked Chris Racy to be my Chief of Staff, my wingman, enabling his continued dedication to this great organization. Thank you, Chris. You know, one thing that I've observed in my short tenure here is that the staff has an extreme dedication and passion in the mission of the organization. It's my honor to work with such knowledgeable professionals who are working hard as we close out this fiscal year. Just a few things that they're wrapping up in addition to their day jobs. This has to be wrapped up by the end of June. The budget, we're all fully aware of that. Heavy lift. Thank you. Performance evaluations process started, I think, Monday of this week. Got a couple of weeks to get those done. The FY25 annual report, communications is deep into it and ready to really get engaged and get this thing published as quickly as possible. Ongoing training. We have a cadet class that started just this week, as well as staff training in the office. And a June commission meeting as well, coming up in just a few short weeks. Well, in addition to these administrative duties, they're dedicated to moving the needle forward on critical conservation efforts. These are going to influence the natural state for years to come. For example, our recently ended turkey season. After significant changes to the regulations in 2015-2016, we recorded a record harvest of over 11,300 birds, mature birds, which is up 21% from the prior year. And this has resulted also in 5 consecutive years of growth, the best harvest since 2016, and I dare say a direct result of changes that were made at that time. We're right in the middle of National Boating Safety Week. We'd like to encourage all boaters in Arkansas waters to follow safe boating practices, which includes wearing life jackets. You know, Memorial Day weekend is coming up, starting tomorrow. And let's all be careful out there in Arkansas waters. The youth shooting sports state competition will be May 30 and 31 at the Jacksonville shooting range. So come out if you have time and watch some of Arkansas's best youth shooters compete. And not to steal Mary Beth's thunder, but as she mentioned, on May 7, the Education Division, led by Chief Mary Beth Hatch, launched Generation Conservation Summit to be held November 6 and 7, as she mentioned to you, in Hot Springs. Friends, this is a 2-day, one-of-a-kind event. Nothing else like it. It's unique, and it's going to challenge students in conservation and outdoor recreation. Importantly, all AGFC divisions are supporting this initiative. And it's also going to help the students learn more about what we do, the work we do, and to grow in leadership skills, especially in the world of conservation. Another program that Mary Beth alluded to is where AGFC is helping educate young people on the importance of habitat. In this case, aquatic vegetation for fish habitat. They're growing plants, as she mentioned, in elementary and middle schools. Then they're handing those plants off to high schools. These high schools are planting these plants then in northwest Arkansas waters, creating fish habitat. So this is the result of a cooperative effort partnership between Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas Habitat Alliance and the division. And it's programs like these, on the ground, boots getting dirty, dirt getting under fingernails, that we need to do more and more of. It's a challenge to our organization to recover from what I consider to be at least one generation that we've lost in hands-on-the-ground conservation efforts. In addition, our teams have worked diligently on creating WMAs to better dove habitat by planting many acres in sunflowers as we look forward to our fall dove season this year. Many of you also may not know that our alligator population survey is going on right now, our monitoring survey, that will turn into the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service as they help us set our 2026 alligator hunting season. Also, within our wildlife division, a comprehensive and thorough chronic wasting disease report is underway, and the commission will have a chance to review that at upcoming meetings. Our enforcement division, led by Colonel Brad Young, has been extremely busy as turkey season came and went, and boating and floating season began. So far, we've had a few boating incidents so far on Arkansas waters. However, each has been a single vessel incident, and unfortunately, we have had 3 fatalities so far this year. Sad to report that. However, our officers have also assisted in scholastic archery competitions and also participated in numerous high water rescues during the recent flooding that we experienced in this state. In addition, a new cadet class began May 18 with 18 new candidates. However, this is still far short of our vacancies that we have. We need more recruiting. And last but certainly not least, I'm happy to report that the Nature Center at Crawley's Ridge recorded its 1 millionth visitor just recently. And when Ben made a comment about free fishing weekend, friends, there are 31 public fishing derbies in the state that weekend. I don't know how many pounds of catfish are going to be taken in those 31 derbies, but I have a feeling it's a couple truckloads. Thank you for that effort. Friends, I could go on and on about the many accomplishments that these highly competent professionals are doing right now. That could take a couple more hours, and I know we would all like to get out of here and have other things to do, but I'd like to thank them for their passion and their dedication. This is a great team. We do these things because we know they're making a difference for the natural state. And my initial interactions with staff in the last 3 to 5 days have shown me that they don't do this for a job. They do this out of a passion for the resource. I share in that passion, and I'm looking forward to more interactions with this team as we all work together to lead a legacy for future generations to enjoy all that the natural state has to offer. Friends, thank you. Please get outside and get outside often. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Wonderful report, Director Sean Rock, and again, thank you to staff for a lot of wonderful things that are going on. And next, we go into our committee meeting reports. At this time, first up, Vice Chair DeRamus, Chair of Budget Committee. Will you give your report for May 19th and 21st?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everybody. The Budget Committee met yesterday. We had one discussion item. Emily Shoemate provided an update on the financial status of the agency using recent data as well as projections for future revenues. We had 2 action items. Luke Naylor presented an action item requesting a budget increase of $252,000 for the purpose of design, engineering, and critical infrastructure work at Shirey Bay Rainy Break Wildlife Management Area. This received a unanimous do pass. Then Garrett Duggar presented an action item for a grant of $25,000 to the Arkansas Prescribed Burn Association, which also received a unanimous do pass. There was no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Doremus. Next, Commissioner Finley, Chair of Regulations. Will you please give us your report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. It was a busy day in the Regulations Committee yesterday.
Yes, it was.
We had one discussion item. Ryan Askren, Director of the Five Oaks Ag Research and Education Center, gave a great presentation on mallard telemetry projects and the data gathered from recent migrations. Also, we had a number of action items. We started with David Masecki, presented a first reading of the turkey regulation proposal to restructure zones and season dates. That committee gave this a unanimous do pass. Brett Leach presented the first reading of 3 waterfowl regulation proposals, an amendment to the code regarding obstructing of hunting, fishing, and trapping to establish an AGFC disorderly conduct code with associated penalties. Also, he presented an amendment to the code regarding boating restrictions on WMAs and national wildlife refuges to increase the reckless boating penalty from a Class 3 to a Class 4 violation. An amendment to the code for administrative hearing procedures to ensure that a person convicted of violating an AGFC disorderly conduct code is then eligible to having their revocation period reduced by up to half. But it also presented an action item to set the veterans and active duty military waterfowl hunt days for the 25-26 season. All of these received a do pass. Vic DeScenzo presented a first reading of a combination resident guide license, which would be a new product that offers the same privileges for both the hunting and fishing guide license. The committee gave this a do pass. Mr. DeScenzo also presented a first reading of a largemouth bass tournament exemption permit that would allow available by request for Lakes Barnett, Brewer, and Poinsett. The committee gave this a do pass as well. There was no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Finley. Next, Commissioner Tappan, Chair of Property Management. Would you please give us your report?
Well, thank you, Chairman. We equally had a busy day with Property Management Committee meeting. The discussion item was Tommy Laird gave an update on the Jim Hinkle Spring Hatchery and the progress since the spring flooding that occurred in early April. I want to add on, it's incredible the amount of work that's been accomplished with Tommy, his team, many other staff members in these 6 weeks of storm recovery, and we're all appreciative. There were several action items. Jeremy Risley presented an action item to place a memorial to Gray Lake memorial plaque in honor of James Rooster Arnold, a passionate angler and director of bass tournaments. The committee unanimously gave the item a do pass. Rachel Worthen presented 6 real estate action items, an Entergy easement to relocate poles so that power no longer runs across or over the youth pond at Upper Lake Hogue. Also, a level 2 encroachment resolution on Lake Atkins by conveying the Ramirez family 482 square feet of AGFC property for an estimated $550 paid by the family. Also, a permanent easement request that was allowing placing a single additional utility pole in line with the existing facilities and poles adjacent to right-of-way in Clinton Road on Camp Robinson, SUA in Mayflower. Permanent easement request that would allow the commission staff contractors to cross the corner of a private tract to connect and provide access between 2 AGFC tracks and Wiggy Bridge Road. Permanent easement request that would allow commission staff and contractors to cross the corner of a private tract to connect and provide access. Well, that's listed twice. I'm sorry. I've already read that one. Request the purchase of 205 acres adjacent to the Petty Jean River WMA from Orland LLC for $317,750. All these items received a unanimous do pass by the committee. Emily Shoemake presented an action item to remove from inventory a Canon camera purchased in June 2017 with a current book value of 0, and that was reported lost by the Enforcement Division. The committee gave that item unanimous do pass. And finally, Colonel Brad Young presented 3 action items for the removal award, and sale of service weapons to retiring game wardens Captain Cornish, Captain Buck, Senior Corporal Tate. That item received unanimous pass for all of those three items. We had no new business and no old business, and we were adjourned.
All right. Well, thank you, Commissioner Tappan, for that property management report. Finally, Commissioner Jones, Chair of Personnel and Governance Committee, would you please give us your report?
Thank you, Chairman. The Personnel Governance Committee met yesterday. We had one discussion item. John Marks presented an update for the agency's legal matters. We had no action items, no new business, no old business, no reason for executive session. We're adjourned.
All right. Well, thank you, Commissioners, for those committee reports. Next, we come up to our commission items. First up, our combination guide license, first reading. Dr. Vic DeShinjo, you have the floor.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and Director. Currently, any resident must be in possession of a resident guide hunting license or guide fishing license to guide for any consideration and take of any species of wildlife by any means in Arkansas. To reduce the number of licenses required by individuals that guide hunting and fishing trips, we proposed the creation of a combination guide license. This license would allow individuals to guide both hunting and fishing trips. The current guide fishing and hunting licenses are $250 each. The combination will be $350. This is only a first reading and no action is required today. I am happy to answer any questions. Okay.
None. Please continue with our second item, largemouth bass tournament exemption.
Yes, sir. This past January, new regulations went into effect for Lakes Barnett, Brewer, and Poinsett. It established a 10-inch daily bag limit with a 1/16-inch length limit. We plan to use tournament exemption permits to allow tournaments to be exempt from the regulation and continue as usual on these lakes, similar to practices in Oklahoma and Florida. However, we have since discovered that there is currently no legal means to implement exemption permits. We are proposing an exemption permitting tournament officials to request written permission from AGFC Fisheries Division staff to be exempt from the 1/16-inch length restriction for Lakes Barnett, Brewer, and Poinsett. Implementing this tournament exemption permit will allow tournaments to operate on these reservoirs as they have for many years, and we would require them to submit tournament summaries and to release all fish. This is only a first reading and no action is required today. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I know. Thank you, sir, for that good report. Next, turkey regulations. First reading. David Masicki, our turkey coordinator. You have the floor.
Morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Directorate, and Director. I do have a map coming up here in 1 second. I just want to back up there for y'all to reference. Just 1 second on that. That'll work. All right, thank you. All right, so this is the first reading. The map, just to reiterate, we are remaining with that 9-day, 1-bird structure, 22-bird structure. The slash lines were the original 9 days, and we're going to kind of keep that going. Those are marked 1A and 2A. The rest is going to be 3 zones split. So inside the levee, what's near zone 17 will be zone 3. Zone 2 will be down there in the Gulf Coastal Plain, and then zone 1 will be the remaining Ouachitas, Ozarks, and Delta region. Just to show you the dates, so the regular season for zone 3, that's inside the levee, will be the Monday closest to April 3rd. For that zone 2 and 2A, the regular season will start Monday, the closest to April 10th. The youth weekend will be the 2 days prior to that, that weekend prior to the Monday closest to April 10th. For Zone 1 and 1A, the season will start the Monday closest to April 17th, and that youth weekend will be the week prior to that start date, and it will be the same as what Zone 2 is right now. This is a first reading. There's no action needed, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
There's none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'll see you in June.
All right, next, item D, waterfowl regulation proposal, first reading. Allison Fowler, you have the floor.
Good morning, Chairman Neely, Commissioners, Director. Yesterday you heard from Brett Leach, first reading for 3 waterfowl regulation proposals to establish a disorderly conduct code with associated penalties, to up the penalty for reckless boating from a C3 to a C4, and to amend the administrative hearing procedure. First reading, no action required. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I think we have none.
Great.
Thank you, Allison, for that. And next, our 2025-2026 veteran and active duty military waterfowl hunt days. Items 5E. You have the floor.
For your approval, we are going to place the active military and veterans hunt on the Saturday and Sunday following the first Monday in February.
All right. This item does require approval from Regulations Committee. Commissioner Finley, was this approved by committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it was.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved. Thank you, ma'am. You may continue with the next item, which is our budget increase from Shirey Bay.
Yes, for your approval, we're requesting a budget increase of $252,000 for some GTR and hydrology work at Shirey Bay Rainy Break WMA.
All right, this item requires approval from the Budget Committee. Vice Chair Doremus, was this approved by your committee?
It was.
Well, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. This motion is approved. Thank you, Ms. Allison, for that report. Next, we go to item G, which is our DeGray Lake Memorial for James Arnold. Jeremy Risley, you have the floor.
Chairman, Commissioners, Director, today I respectfully request your approval to install a memorial plaque honoring James Arnold at the newly constructed courtesy dock at the DeGray Lake Spillway. Yesterday, I talked about James's impact to the bass tournament community and his impacts to DeGray Lake. I want to leave you with this before I step down. By approving this memorial plaque, you will honor James's contribution and celebrate his enduring spirit. This plaque will be a permanent reminder of his dedication and inspiring current and future generations to continue his work. This memorial plaque will ensure the legacy of James Rooster Arnold will never be forgotten. And with that, I take any questions.
Well, this is a well-deserved honor, as Anne Marie and I both had mentioned in our first few days in our new appointments. We both were reached out by Mr. James, and it all stemmed back from his passion for DeGray and all the lakes, and again, a very fitting memorial for him. This item does require approval from Property Management. Commissioner Tappan, was this approved by your committee?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, it was approved.
Okay, well, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved. Thank you, sir. Next, item H, our Lake Hogue Entergy easement relocation. Rachel Worthen, Real Estate Officer, would you please present? You have the floor.
Thank you, Commissioner Neely. Good morning, Commissioners, Director, staff, and guests. The first minute order I have is a request from Entergy for a right-of-way easement to replace utility lines along Lake Hogue at Earl Best Bayou Debut. I'll take any questions and appreciate a good vote.
All right. This item does require approval from property management. Commissioner Tappan, was this approved by your committee?
Mr. Chairman, it was approved.
Okay, have a motion to approve. No second necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved. Thank you, ma'am. You may continue with next item, Lake Atkins Ramirez encroachment.
The second minute order I have involves a level 2 encroachment at Lake Atkins. Operations request selling approximately 482 square feet of commission land following AGFC's land use encroachment policy. I'll take any questions, and I hope for a good vote.
Okay, this item requires approval from property management. Commissioner Tappan, was this approved by your committee?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, it was approved.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve. No second necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved as well. Rachel, please continue with Camp Robinson Clinton Road energy easement.
Yes, sir. This third minute order is an Entergy request to install a pole on Clinton Road at Camp Robinson SUA, and I will take any questions and appreciate a good vote.
Again, this item requires approval from property management. Commissioner Tappan, was this approved by your committee?
It was approved.
Okay, again, motion approved. The request, no second necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved. Thank you, Rachel. Please continue with DeParty Creek Wiggy Bridge Road Entergy easement.
Yes, sir. The next minute order is an Entergy easement to extend an existing utility line from commission property to Wiggy Bridge Road at DeParty Creek. I'll take any questions and hope for a good vote.
Again, this item requires approval for property management. Commissioner Tappan, was this approved by your committee?
It was approved.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion to approve the request. No second necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved. Rachel, please continue with next item, which is, we're just going to keep on chugging.
Well, keep it on.
Property management was busy yesterday.
That's right.
Busy yesterday.
All right.
The next minute order is a request for wildlife management to attain an access easement from the northern neighbors at DeParty Creek off of Wiggy Bridge Road as well. I will take any questions and appreciate a good vote.
Again, property management, Commissioner Tappan, was this approved?
It was approved.
All right, have a motion to approve the request. No second necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved. And lastly, Petit Jean River Orland acquisition. Rachel?
Yes, sir. My last minute order is for AGFC to acquire 205 acres of land from Orland LLC at Petit Jean River WMA. This acquisition will be funded by the Pittman-Robertson Wildlife Restoration Funds. I will take any questions and appreciate a good vote.
Well, again, this item requires approval from property management. Commissioner Tappan, was this approved by your committee?
Yes, sir, Chairman, it was approved.
All right, we have a motion for approval of this request. No second necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Well, this is unanimous and approved, and thank you, Rachel, for your hard work in property management. And next item N, we have a lost asset, and Emily Shoemate, our Chief Financial Officer, you have the floor.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have a minute order for your approval that will allow AGFC to remove a lost camera from our inventory. Its original cost was $642 and its present value is $0.
All right, any questions? Hearing none, this item does require approval from property management. Commissioner Tappan, was this approved by your committee?
Yes, sir, it was approved.
Thank you. Have a motion to approve. No second necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved. All right, thank you, Emily. And next item O, we have an inventory removal award and sale from our Colonel Brad Young. You have the floor.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Coming before you this morning for the inventory removal and the award and sale of service weapons for retiring Captain. First off is Captain Bill Buck with 40 years.
Okay. We're going to take these in sequence.
Yes,
first up, Captain Buck's service award. This item requires approval from property management. Commissioner Tappan, was this approved in your committee?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We took Colonel Young's, this item and the next two and approved them all in one motion.
Okay. Well, all three will be approved in one motion for Captain Buck, Captain Cornish, and Senior Corporal Tate.
Yes, sir.
All right. All in one motion. No second necessary. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this is all approved. And next, Garrick Duggar, grant to Arkansas Prescribed Burn Association. You have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. I have a minute order for your approval or your consideration and approval. This minute order will allow $25,000 to be granted to the Arkansas Prescribed Burn Association. That association was started in 23 to support existing PBAs and create new PBAs. And over the last year, they've done a wonderful job doing their mission. And due to that fact, we're asking for the commission to approve this grant for $25,000 to allow the APBA to continue to support the existing PBAs, create new PBAs, and also just really support prescribed fire on private lands across the state. And they're doing a wonderful job of that. And so with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Just a quick comment, Garrick. Again, we know the importance that these PBAs are continuing to mean to the agency, and how we're going to continue to grow these in every area and rely on them more and more, and we appreciate that.
Yes, sir. The APBA will be here hopefully next month, maybe in July, to present to you guys the results of this past year. But PBAs are growing. We went from 8 to 12, and I don't want to steal their thunder, but yeah, things are going good. So.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Garrick. This item does require approval from the Budget Committee. Vice Chair Doremus, was this approved in your committee?
It was approved.
All right. Have a motion to approve the request. No second necessary. All in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Garrick. This motion is approved. All right, Commissioners, is there any new business to be brought before this commission today? Any old business? Mr. Jones, is there any need for executive session?
No need.
All right. Well, before we adjourn, as we often do, we want to give commissioners each a chance to share some comments, maybe from the last few days, and enjoying DeGray. We'll start down with Commissioner Caldwell, and we'll work to the right.
Thank you, Chairman. It has been, as you alluded to, Chairman, a very busy week. I just want to thank the staff and fellow commissioners for just all the time that went into this to prepare us, and then just the men and women of this agency for closing out the year and a great new year. A lot of great things on the horizon, not without its challenges, but just really, really proud of the dedication of our staff. I made some notes yesterday that were just so impressive as the Colonel just came up and as we just approved the asset removal and award sale to Captains Buck, Captain Cornish, and Senior Corporal Tate. Respectively 40 years, 30 years, and 27 years to this agency. And I just think that is a testament to this agency and to enforcement, to have, such employees who have dedicated their lives, not just the agency, but the citizens of Arkansas, the sportsmen and women, and speak so highly of the agency, and very proud to be a part of that. And then, lastly, I just want to welcome Director Schoenrock and Linda to Arkansas, and so proud to have y'all here and excited for what may come and is going to come as we embark on a new year.
Well said.
Can we make a rule that we don't start with Chris from now on?
I was thinking the same.
I always go last. I don't know.
It's hard to follow, Chris.
Hey, I'll make that motion.
Listen, he's never short on words. Longest conversation was with himself yesterday in the boat. They finally put somebody with him.
That would have been a long one.
No, listen, I do echo his comments. Welcome to the Sean Rocks. Welcome to Arkansas. We're excited about the birth of a new administration and what all that entails in bringing your experiences and expertise in leadership. So we're excited about that. Given the workload yesterday in the meetings that all of you guys put in, and Tappan and I's contribution is very, very minor considering the legal list of items done on the commission. It's amazing that we were able to catch so many fish in that tournament and have a podium finish, Tappan, but we do what we do. Yes, it was much like the day with the broken bread and the bag. Yeah, the 5 fish and we fed millions. But no, nonetheless, it's always encouraging with this staff and what they accomplish. When you look at how they're able to take this entire agency and put it on the road in areas of the state where we're able to, as commissioners and others, get to experience parts of the state we don't live close to. It's always amazing to me that not only do they do it with such a smile, they do it with such excitement and love for the state and what they do. Then you add a Mary Beth Hatch, who, on a side note, has incredible bago skills. That being said, where the education department's going, when I got on here and where it is today, it's unbelievable. But what's even more, we're just scratching the surface, and where that's going to go. I've got roughly, not that I'm counting, 25 months left on this, but it'll be amazing that just exponentially how much we'll grow between now and the next 25 months, and then beyond that. So that's what Arkansas should look forward to, and be proud of, and be excited with what's to come. It's not just where we are, what we've accomplished, but what's on the horizon. When you put a new administration together and you have such a great team supporting, lifting that up, it's just unbelievable, and the sky is the limit to where we'll go. I'm excited about going back to some old stomping grounds in Camden next month, hearing some stories of JD that maybe not have come out yet, but I know they will. And so, again, excited about that. I know Beth's probably back there paying a few folks off, trying to keep some of the old stories
some
down.
hush money going out.
Yeah, I understand. but nonetheless, hey, what a great time we've had in the Gray. And again, thanks to the staff, everyone else who put such tireless effort into making this a successful deal.
Well, I echo everything that Rob and Chris said. And also thank you to Arkansas State Parks for hosting us this week. Everything has been fantastic. It's been so great being out on Lake DeGray and seeing up close the projects that our fisheries team has worked on. I also want to take a moment and publicly recognize our CFO, Emily Shoemate. She, this past year, being budget chair, she's been fabulous to work with. She has taught me so much about our budget. You know, being on here for 6 years, you think that you're just starting to get the hang of it. And, you know, spending time with Emily, she taught me that I really don't know all the ins and outs of our budget, and did it with grace. And she and all of our chiefs put on a wonderful budget meeting on Monday to get us up to speed on what we have coming in fiscal year 2026. And I just want to thank her for that. So Emily, thank you. You're wonderful. We're lucky to have you.
Well said, Commissioner Doremus. Commissioner Adams?
I was going last.
Yeah, he was ready for the last.
No, this is my first time to the Gray Lake, and it's beautiful. It definitely won't be my last. And so I appreciate all they've done to accommodate us. And then I want to reiterate a couple of the comments, especially want to welcome Doug and Linda, and realizing that at this point in Doug's career, he didn't have to take this job. He didn't need this job. And I think that shows his passion for conservation and his commitment to Arkansas. I guess your daughter got married last week.
Yes, sir.
And then they move halfway across the country to take on this challenge. And so really excited to have you guys and appreciate your commitment.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jones?
Well, I want to reiterate the fact that Doug and Linda are here. We're thrilled about it, and we're so happy that you took the job. Also, Lake DeGray, what a gorgeous place this is. You know, kind of being at the end of the line here, we kind of left without a lot to say. So I'm going to tell you all a few stories. So yesterday we had the beautiful fishing trip, and Miss B.A. and Chris and myself were in the boat with this guy named Scott, and we ended up catching one bass. And of course, we didn't catch the bass; he caught the bass. And at the end of the trip, he said, "Guys, y'all," he didn't tell us to them; he told it to me. Y'all not very good fishermen, but y'all sure do talk a lot. I want to thank Sean for my 14-year question of where the moss went, and that was fantastic to hear that today, because I know this probably the same thing happened in Lake Ouachita. We used to scuba dive that and see all the beautiful coontail there, and I'm glad to hear that. But the last thing I'm going to say is, when Sherry and I drove into Lake DeGray, we had only been here one time 15 years ago, and there was a truck that was stopped. I'm like, why is this truck stopped with a boat in the middle of the road, just coming into the park? And he walked in front of his truck, and we're like, what is he doing? And he walked out of his truck and had a baby fawn in his hand, and walked it over to the field, put it down, and it was absolutely gorgeous. We had probably 15 or 20 vehicles that were stopped looking at this fawn, and we were so concerned about what was going to happen to it, but how awesome it was that the guy did that. And last night, after this beautiful fish fry, we were driving back to the hotel or the lodge, and there was Mama and the little fawn right there. So where else can you see this but in Arkansas?
Yeah. All right, Commissioner Tappan.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I want to start by saying thank you to you and your wonderful wife, Beth, of organizing this event here, equal what everyone has said about state parks, but particularly thank you and Beth for hosting us. Director Schoenrock, it's been 20 plus years since we did business together between Sara Lee Corporation and Quality Foods, and I see that same professionalism and leadership plus many years of wisdom at it. It's so good to have you here. I see why Ducks Unlimited chose you as their president and chairman, and we're just so fortunate to have a talent like you here. The last thing I want to try to quickly say, as I said earlier, one of the most fulfilling parts of being a commissioner is being out, whether it be in schools, ranges, lakes, or lands, and seeing our work take place. I'm going to give you two quick examples. Stacy Clark, tell your former colleagues at Gene Rush that WMA is just right at impeccable. Turkey hunted up there a couple of days. Unfortunately, no turkey stories to tell, Bill, but it is just incredible how well maintained that complex is. And Griffin, just like you pointed out down here, added from years in the past. There's more mulching that's been going on, more fire that's been applied. Chairman Neely, you'd be proud of how those woods look, and that's going on all across our network. Finally, another example, as I had an opportunity 2 weeks ago to host a private land tour with 3 landowners, 2 NRCS leaders, and 2 of our very private lands staff. What was the most encouraging and enlightening of the whole thing is there was Megan Davis, a new young biologist that joined the team and it was there for the first time. To see Bubba Groves take that as a learning opportunity as we were all across this property, and to see him teaching and educating the years of knowledge that Bubba has, going back from Mississippi State. It's a miracle, that he got out of there. But all the knowledge that was imparted to him at Mississippi State, his years on the ground, now imparting this to this young associate of ours, it was a beautiful thing. And it's a testament to all of you leaders and the knowledge you have of growing the next generation and how important that is. It goes on a lot, and I thank you all.
Those are all great words, Commissioner Tappan, and I couldn't agree more. Many of y'all have commented on the staff, and we can't thank y'all enough for a great week. I mean, from the committee work y'all did at budget on Monday, Emily, so much work went into that and the preparation. We're going into the 2026 year as best we can, and couldn't be prouder. Doug, Linda, again, welcome, and the fire hose is just starting. You're so glad you can get here at this point. I know when we first began this director search journey with Dan Sherman and the Explore Group, we all kind of had hoped, well, we could have this decision made before the year's end, and to get. But we're fortunate that things, in God's alignment and timing, everything worked good to get you here before year's end, so that you could be a part of the budget meetings and the planning. And so when, as Rob alluded to, you hit 26, y'all are going to be on fire. I'm going to miss it. Y'all do have a great leadership team coming, and so I feel great that I'm handing it off to good hands. Next month we will be in Camden, my hometown. Ouachita County, I don't know, has hosted the Game and Fish Commission in quite some time. Some of you historians can look back in history and see when, if ever, if it was in Ouachita County. Way before my time, obviously, if it was. But it will be an honor to have the Game and Fish in Camden, and to, as we will continue the theme, it's been the roadshow theme throughout this year with state parks. We're not going to stay at White Oak Lake State Park. Don't get worried, commissioners. We're not going tent camping. But we will make a tour to, we've got White Oak Lake that's up there. We're going to go up to get to see it, hear from fisheries up there. We're going to do have some presentation interaction with our biologists that work up there in and around our state forest. Many of you may not know that we have a Poison Spring State Forest up there that's nearly 30,000 acres in Nevada and Ouachita counties. We're pleased and honored to have that state land there available to the public. And our Game and Fish biologists work to help manage the wildlife and the habitat on that state forest. So we're going to get to see that. And then we're going to go to a photo op at a unique place called the Little Grand Canyon, and it's just below at White Oak Lake. And Mike, get your camera ready because we're going to take a picture of the Grand Canyon.
You've done a photo op at every single one of our meetings.
Oh, I know. Every time we got to plan a photo op. But so that'll be our Ouachita County photo op. I want to again thank our core group for being here, our partners throughout the state and our national partners. We can't do any of this conservation management without partners. And so we thank y'all for all the hard work you do in managing water levels and keeping us safe and working throughout our streams and rivers throughout this nation. Just remind everyone this is Memorial Day weekend, and it's often been said that all gave some, but some gave all, and that's what this weekend's about. And we be safe as you go home and get to spend this weekend with families and get to get out. Free fishing weekend. To all our listening audience, have fun and enjoy our streams and rivers. And with that, we're adjourned.